Welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Marco Cantarelli, and I'm international sales here in iSolution. For those of you that don't know us, we are a software house with more or less 25 years of expertise in the gaming industry, providing both platform and games to licensed operators all over the world. I want to invite you to follow us on YouTube and also on LinkedIn profile, just to stay updated on the upcoming events, stay and remain in touch with us. I have an announcement that I will do at the end of the webinar. So I want also to ask you to stay tuned until the end. So let's jump directly on the topic. Today we want to talk about Crash Games, and for this occasion, I want to introduce you our speakers for today. We have Justin Palmer, CEO of Bolabet, and Martin Wachter, CEO and founder of Golden Race. Thank you again to both of them.
Hello.
Thank you, Martin. You have the comment section, so any question you might have, feel free to write it down. We will reply to them at the final session of the webinar. And now I would like to give our speaker the opportunity to introduce themselves a bit and say a couple of words. So please, Martin.
So first of all, hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me for this nice topic, Marco. It's always a pleasure to talk with iSolution, a well-known partner for many, many years between us and Golden Race. And also with iSolutions, we had a lot of good experience in Italy and other markets. So me personally, Martin Wachter, some of you maybe already know me. I'm the CEO and founder of Golden Race. So Golden Race is one of the companies in the Softco Holding Group, which covers many areas of gambling. But the main topic is Golden Race. So actually today I have my 19th anniversary. I didn't know because I saw some messages on LinkedIn. So exactly today, 19 years ago, the idea was created to establish Golden Race, which was a little bit difficult in the beginning, but I think it became a very successful story. We're one of the biggest operators in virtual sports in the world, with a massive footprint in Africa and Latam. We are market leader in Italy, which is one of the most regulated markets in virtual sports. Yeah, this is my topic, my favorite to talk. And yes, as we also cover the area of Crash Games, it's nice to talk with you today.
Thank you, Martin. And congratulations for the anniversary. That's a very good timing for today.
Yes, we have a perfect timing today.
Good. Justin, please.
Hi, Marco. Hello, everyone. My name is Justin. I'm the CEO of Bolabet. We're an operator originally based in Zambia. We've now, in the last year, expanded to Zimbabwe, and we're hoping to continue expanding in Southern Africa. Bolabet has been around since 2012 in Zambia, so about 12 years now, and has seen a lot of transformation from being retail only to launching the first online site in Zambia, learning about mobile money, and then in the last few years, learning a lot about Crash Games. So thanks for having us.
Thank you again to both of you. So I think that after the presentation, we can really jump on the topic now. So let's do a quick recap, just to help all of us about Crash Games. We are talking pretty much about a game vertical that started after 2000, probably. Initially, it was very similar to the already existing online gambling. So it also had low popularity, not really interesting figures in terms of players, probably for the first 8 to 10 years. The first change, the first step that we have seen can be dated 2010 to 2016, more or less. So the user base was growing a bit, advanced graphics, maybe more engaging gameplay contributed to this vertical in the industry. And worldwide, the number of players started to grow in a steady way, still lower compared to the standard legacy casino games. From what we have seen, and I think that also numbers confirm that, the real boom, the real crash game boom was between 2017 to 2020. In this case, we have seen like a mobile first approach, social media pushing the visibility and the adoption of these kind of games. And in this period, until 2020, we have really seen like a record number of players. So significant year-on-year number of bettors, as well as return and like turnover. In the last 3-4 years, probably we are seeing like consolidation of this vertical game. So there are like many more provider in the market. So it's like a type of game with more competition right now. A lot of new products that are like trying to gain market share or to confirm the already obtained market share. And at the same time, probably regulation and legislation are coming into play heavily. Despite all of this, I really think that crash games is still a quite valid vertical in the gaming industry, and the worldwide numbers, especially with some providers, are really confirming that. But that said, I would like to leave the stage to our speaker. We can maybe start from comparison between crash games and other products that could be lottery or legacy casino games or virtual games. I would like to start from you, Justin. What is your opinion? Like, elaborate as you please.
Yeah, sure. So look, as an operator, we just put everything out there, and almost all the operators have all the same stuff. So I'm sure Golden Race have 5 or 6 brands that are using their products in Zambia, as most of the suppliers do. And usually what we sort of have seen is that everyone's got the same games. But when it came to the crash games, Bolabit was the first in Zambia to have it. So we got a bit of a head start, and it became incredibly popular over about a year and a half. And then Betway and some of the bigger internationals added it, and we started to worry that maybe we're going to start losing market share. But what we found is it only accelerated the growth more. So something interesting that we found about the crash games is, I think, at least for us in Zambia and some of Southern Africa, it's still very much growing. Whereas with other casino games and virtuals and slots, we did find in the past that if a different company or a bigger company at that time would bring it on board, that we would start to lose market share. So it's been very interesting with the crash games specifically, that it's sort of a rising tide that's lifting up everybody. I think there's about 25 companies in Zambia, which is not a big market, who are all offering at least 2 or 3 different types of crash games. And I think the reason that it's so much more popular perhaps than slots or the virtual games we found is the element of control, where the player believes that or feels like they do have a level of control because they choose at what point to run or to wait, which you don't find in many other games except obviously for sports. But in sports, you have to wait. You know, you've got live betting, which has never been that popular here, but with the crash games is around every 30 seconds or so. So that element of you being in control and it being very quick, I think, has made it fly past, slots and other virtual games, from what we've seen at least. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, the simplicity and the easy, the easy effort, the low effort that a bettor is needed to have to start playing around, can mix this with the being in control experience. So I can
the growth,
understand.
The growth, yeah, in markets that we work in, there are a lot of really interesting games that come out that don't succeed here because it's a bit complicated through a digital way to explain to people how to play them. So when it comes to the crash games, I guarantee you I could explain to any person that comes into one of our shops or joins our site within, I don't know, less than a minute. They would understand the gameplay, how it works, how to win, how to lose, and there'd be engagement. And I've seen this across all demographics, from CEOs of other companies all the way down to our entry-level staff, that they all like the game and get excited about it and learn it very quickly. If you wanted to play live sports, for example, which is also something where you have a level of control because perhaps you could cash out, it's quite difficult to explain to some people if they don't have a sporting background already. So that is a major benefit we've seen.
Thank you for that. Martin, I think that could be very interesting. Same question to you. Just feel free to elaborate the comparison between Crash Game and other products, maybe from your perspective. That is, of course, different from an operator one.
So if Justin always starts, there is not much to add because he actually covered most of the things. So I can agree in some parts. Yes, in all the parts with him. From my side to add, my base is virtual sports. Is where I'm coming from, and we saw the Crash Games, which came up to the market, and there was a big worry in the beginning. Will it affect a lot of our business? I can tell you, at least based on my numbers, which I check every month. Maybe we compare. Maybe we have the situation that we get enough clients, but it didn't affect. So I don't see any impact on my numbers at the moment. So Crash Games working fine, and I think they also take some business from casino. I don't always think that, for example, Africa, where we know that virtual football is very popular, that the classic virtual football players are going for the Crash Game on these things. But in general, when I see the user perception on Crash Games, something is clear. There is a thrill of excitement because it has a fast-paced nature, and also this thing that you can actually, you have a kind of impact when you think that it's time to cash out. You have very quick rounds in Crash Games, what you maybe don't have with other games. It's very, as Justin was saying, it's very simple and easy to understand for everyone, straightforward to the game. And this is actually what is the difficult thing sometimes when we deploy new virtual games, to find the simplicity, because we bring it on a platform like for BolaBet or for everyone, and we have to rely on our customers that they find a way to explain to their players, which is not always easy. A Crash Game is a self-explaining game, and there is always a potential for big winnings on these games. So I think this is the nature of Crash Games. They are here, they're doing very well, and for sure this was a reason why Golden Race spent a lot of time and focus to also bring Crash Games on the market. And it is a part of our business. And we see Crash Games also, we want to go in a different way. We want to make them more sports-like, so they fit also more to our virtual sports book. But for sure, it's a market. There is only, I think, 2 or 3 successful Crash Games, like there are only 2 or 3 successful virtual sports. And it's a challenge for us to go on this level, But as Justin also mentioned, it's something here we see growing numbers. There is a demand from clients, and we have to follow the clients, and let's see where it goes.
Thank you for that. So based on what you both are saying, I think that it's difficult to say that there is like a right customer for a Crash Game, rather than pretty much everybody can start to bet on Crash Game because of simplicity, because of the feeling of being in control, because of the adrenaline rush that this kind of fast-paced game will give to the customer. I mean, you have maybe evidence supporting a player segmentation on Crash Game, or the distribution is really like wide open between different age, gender, or whatever kind of segmentation?
I think, as you say, it's done for everyone. What is nice to see, that actually, if you are a software provider, in the first hit you see a Crash Game, you say, okay, this is something easy to adapt, to do. And it's something a lot of betting platforms will do in-house, because for example, if you do a virtual football, in these days, you maybe need $5 million and 10 years of experience to have a proper football. We're investing in our football product millions over the last, I would say, 12 years. And it's an ongoing process. And everybody believes Crash Game is doing easy, but it's not. Because most of the Crash games which are delivered now to the industry, they suck. The speed is not enough. The excitement when this crash happens is not predictable. There's a lot of things. So everybody's deploying Crash games, but I would say 85%, and I think Justin agree with me, because they will use different products on the platform. They look similar than the first Crash games were here, but nobody's playing them. So it's not that simple to do as it looks in the first game. But it covers every kind of, you can put it in the casino, in the sports book, in a way of lottery, it can go everywhere.
I find it very interesting what Martin said, especially because he said it can go anywhere, in your portfolio. So the way that we found, I think potentially the most exciting thing about the Crash games is for example, we have our retail shops, and we might have 20 or 30 computers for customers that they can use to play in the shop. And when they all sit in a line, 5 of them all playing, for example, let's say Aviator, one Crash game, everyone goes to the same multiplier across the 5 machines, which makes it in a way a bit more similar to sport, because when you watch sport, the result is the result for everybody. But if you play a virtual football or a slot or something, you can sit across 5 machines next to each other and all get 5 different results. So I think that pooled aspect where everyone gets the same multiplier, it also creates a lot of trust in the game. So, for example, you may play a slot and get a big win, and someone else might play and lose, and you don't really know why. But when you play a Crash game, you all sit together and you can see that for every customer, it went to the same level. So there's kind of like a camaraderie or a shared experience together, which actually feels a bit more like potentially like sports or playing a live casino game, if that makes sense. But it's so low on data because it's not a live casino game, and also it's so quick because it's not sports. It really covers some really interesting different aspects. So that's one of the big benefits. But if someone could understand why some Crash games become incredibly popular and others don't, I'm sure that Martin and his team spend a lot of time looking at all of them, figuring out which ones are the most interesting or exciting, because some of the most simple ones have done well and some of the most rich ones have not done well. And everyone is always doing new things. So it's very hard to understand what will work and what won't work.
I may just add something to Justin, because one point, and this is actually one reason why our virtual sports was always played very good. We have 2 different ways of virtual sports. One is on demand. It's like a casino game where everybody plays his game. But our main success, what we have in retail, and what can be also played on 20 computers in Justin's shop, is on schedule. Because on schedule, the same happens like in Crash games. It's a multiplayer and everybody has the same outcome. So you're not sitting next to each other. It's only when you play it on demand and then it happens. So I agree with you. People like to play the same because they don't feel like in Crash game. If I play a multiplayer Crash game, and this is what I try with multiplayer virtual sports, the player doesn't have the feeling the machine goes against me, because there's no reason. A lot of people playing the same game, why it should go against me? And this makes a game more trustful, what we have in other points after. But I agree with Justin, this multiplayer, I was always a big fan. The on-demand for virtuals just happens because people get bored on their mobile to wait 3 minutes for the next event. But Crash games, fast speed, there is nothing to check. There is not too many markets. You can have a fast speed, and the multiplayer is always something people like, because you don't feel, you get cheated by the system.
Thank you for that. Absolutely interesting. Quick operative update. The platform is experiencing some issues with the comment section. So you are free to send the question that you might have to the mail marketing.isolution.it, and we will use them here on the channel, and we will answer them at the end of the speaker session. Justin, maybe this question is for you. I'm interested a bit in the betting distribution during the day or along the year about Crash Game. I think that in your experience, you have with your brand, you have some data. Maybe you can answer that.
Yeah. So across the year, we're very fortunate that December has always been higher than January. So the growth across the year, we've always ended the year higher than we started the year in terms of turnover or number of bets, which is excellent. But I think it's pretty normal, and you assume you'd see it with virtual football as well and with casino products, that come May, June, July, when sport stops, we do see a bump. It tends to go up and then level out. But overall, the trend has been positive even with that sort of bump, which is lovely. In terms of the day, there's not really a quiet time. I'm not sure why, but people play all through the day. It's usually busiest in the early afternoon to early evening. But it's a non-stop sort of game. There's not really a time where people think now's the time to play. The only thing that's interesting that we've realized is when there's large winners, things seem to cool down for a little bit. I think obviously Martin would know a lot more about how algorithms work, but I assume the system's got to probably throw some lower multipliers out for the RTP to make sense. So it seems to slow down if we see one or two really big winners. But overall, it's a 365 all day non-stop activity.
That makes sense, and probably even because of the amount of user betting on Crash Game on mobile phone, this will also help to distribute along the entire day the play. Let's move to a session. I would like to start from Martin first right now. It's like Martin, if you can give us especially from a provider point of view, like an very high level overview of the security, fairness, and even the trust pool that you mentioned related to Crash Game.
Right, but it's a highly, because still I'm the owner, not the developer. Okay, so
of course.
I can, and
we don't want to go technical. Yes. It's very interesting to know your perception and your overview.
There are still some security secrets behind, and as Justin mentioned, when there is high payouts, the traffic is lowering down. I think if it's a proper game, the RTP doesn't have an effect if there is a high payout. It's an overgoing process, but also players believe, if like in a slot machine, you go in a casino, someone is cashing out big at the machine, nobody wants to go to the machine. But in theory, it could be in the next spin even a higher payout. But okay, people worried and they don't play. So on the security side, it's always the data encryption is very important, for us, that nobody can listen to communication in the server side, when you are a young virtual company or these young Crash Game companies which are starting in Africa, I would be always worried if they're up to date on the security level, that someone can listen the communication and these things. There is always trust issues, okay? The transparency is better in a Crash Game because you have a multiplayer, but still sometimes there is issues of trust. And apart from security, when we see on the fairness area, there we try a lot to do in Crash Games, like it came from slots, and I think it will go over to virtual sports and all these things. This transparency that you have more transparency on the game mechanism and fairness. So, for example, what is in all MOUs now is this probably fair algorithms and fair policies, where you have a code and you can click on the code. It shows you the result. It's very important. And on the other hand, what is clear, I would never touch a game from anyone. It doesn't matter if I would be an operator and someone is coming to me and say I have a Crash Game, or anything, virtual sports, Crash Game. The first thing I would ask him, please show me your certification for your RNG from a proper company. Because, you know, it's, I don't want to tell you, we know a lot of stories, companies coming up, no control on the RNGs, and it can hit you hard, you know, especially in crash games if you have a lot of players to play, and it can hit you hard. And so you have to be sure that the RNG they use is certified by a proper lab, you know. This is something for sure when it goes also for securities, you know.
That makes sense. So you mean that RNG certification in this case is not something that you require because of the regulation within the market or within the country, but more importantly, to trust the provider, to know that it won't hurt the business.
Absolutely, you know, you need it for the license, but you know, most of the
That makes
African countries or Latin countries, we are not there that there is a regulation. You know, there is maybe a sort of regulation, but I'm worried when I see sometimes on exhibitions there is a lot of I don't know, exotic companies coming up. You know, I just tell from my point of view, you know, there are big operators or service providers which are in the industry for many years. And we had also our issues. We had to pay for bugs. We had to pay for payouts. We had to learn. We had to certify everything. We did even a security audit and all these things. Just recommend in fast-paced games and fast games, when you get a new operator, the first question is send me your RNG certified, because at least I know the mass behind has at least some tests, you know. And not I end up and be in troubles. It is for me the biggest security on the operator side, you know. And I don't think that all the guys who have crash games at the moment ever did a proper certification. For sure, the big ones like Aviator and this, don't worry, they do their homework. I'm sure they had their issues in the beginning, big payouts, big slabs, had to pay money, but when these new companies are coming with nobody know up to now, and they have 3 crash games, go deeper and see how they do it. Is just a guy who makes a mess, or is there also proper testing behind? Because it can be very expensive.
Understood. And this is quite important. So I agree with your perspective. Again on the design of the crash game, what about the aspect that could be like the gamification of them, or very specific graphical layout or customization maybe for a specific country, using the same RNG but with a customized graphical layout for a specific market that you want to target?
Okay, about the customized layout, I will give you in the end a little bit of a briefing, an idea, you know, where we want to be different than the industry, you know, and where we see our big chance to take markets from others, because we have big competition here. We are not there where we want to be. But, you know, when we speak about graphical layout and gamification, we could speak for 3 hours on these things, you know, because it's a huge thing. Just want to sum up some things, you know. For example, on the crash game interface, it's always about the graphic for the multiplayer display, you know, how you show to the players that it's a multiplayer, you know, that they see, for example, when others did their payout, high winnings and these things. Other things is that it's very popular now to have special function like additional betting possibilities. You should see in the graphic, in the design on the layout, auto cash out functions. The mobile responsiveness is very, very important. So for example, you need an adaptive layout. It should also work in different computers, because some of the people, especially in Africa and Latam, when they put 20, 30 computers, be aware it might be not the newest generation of IBM and Microsoft and computers. They may be old computers, we're facing many times the issue they use copies of Microsoft license. Computers are out of date, so you have to be sure it's adaptive on the layout. You have to have an optimized performance, because one of the biggest issue what I see up to now on crash game is a performance issue. For example, if you have several computers in your shop, like Justin was saying, and some of them delaying on the crash, or that it stucks, or for example, you have a black screen for any reason, you know. It makes a lot of problems on the crash games, and we had these problems as well. We had to solve it. We didn't know, but this is things you have to solve. Then there was always in Africa the demand for the light version, you know. Everybody was on Opera Mini, you have to be in Opera Mini. But the crazy thing, if you see, I just saw today the statistics in April for us. Google Chrome, the new Google Chrome, overcame Opera Mini by far. By far, you see that when you see our statistics, it's crazy. So we spend a lot of time to be ready for Opera Mini, but the big guys like Google Chrome and this also did their homework, and it's much easier now than years ago to give the games on these markets also for old mobile solution. It has to be, the speed of the crash is very important. We had to understand, for example, our first launch, there was complaints, the speed of the whole process and the multiplier is not fast enough. We had to adapt. Then, for example, when it depends what kind of game you do. For example, we did a specific game for Nigeria. It's called Damfo Crash. It's a Damfo bus, which is very popular in Nigeria. But then we had to find the ways to predict different crashes. So it's more nice for players. So it's something also which goes in the graphic. When we speak about gamification, it's all about the user interaction, which is important. People want to have chat box so they can interact between different players, maybe share some strategies, celebrate their winnings. We see a lot of things here. It's very, very common. And I think it's also the future for virtual sports, having leaderboards. People like to see them in a leaderboard, to be on top, and it's a special motivation for them. And then different promotion and bonuses to get them here. This is the part of gamification. I have to say, for us as Code and Race, you know, we have a lot of games which are successful. We have many games launched, they are not successful. We spend a lot of money. And so this year, the target for our company is that we want to be very focused on gamification. What we can do from our part as a software provider, because in the end of the day, if Justin or the other guys don't accept our offers to implement, they will not be there. But I think gamification is the secret in all the games, and crash games, but also virtual sports. This is the future. And simplicity, you know, simple things, for example, widgets with prepared bets or other things to make it very simple here.
Martin, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Left to right or down to up? Which one is better?
On crash game?
Yes.
This is a good question. I think left to right, I would say. But it's a good question. It's a good question because we see even now things going straight up, but the most popular now are mainly left to right. I think Aviator is left to right, if I'm not wrong. Yes, it's in and this is what players believe and like. And you know, we have this don't take me wrong, sometimes very weird things. For example, it's not in crash games, but to tell you an example, Spin to Win is one of our most successful games in all Africa. And when we launched it in Ghana, one of our first markets, we had to replace another Spin to Win. And the idea, what we had, is to do it realistic. So when the ball stops, like in a roulette, it stops slowly, you know. And we put it in one of the biggest shops in Ghana. And we had some players inside, and they stay in front of the computer and they say, I don't like. I say, why you don't like? No, we don't like, we don't play. And we had to find out that they just didn't play because we made it too realistic. So we had to go back like our previous competitor to stop it immediately, you know. So yeah, left to right, I would say you don't have to invent the wheel. If I would do a crash game, I would go the same way as the ones who work, because I don't want to have them complaints from the operators why you go not left to right.
I wonder if anyone's tried from top to bottom, falling down. It must be very interesting creating games, because you think that it's simple to create a crash game, but on day one you have to decide if we're going up, down, left, right. It sounds like a very complicated process.
I think we will see a lot of things here. I believe in the future, you maybe have 5 planes in the same time and you can do multiplayers. And this is maybe it's too complex now, but I think this will be like with races. You can then say, I play for one crash, I combine 2 or 3 to maximize the possible winnings. It's coming a lot of things. And People will have new ideas on this. Will it be a plane or a car, anything, you know? It's very interesting to see. And for example, we do now one with a football player with focused on Brazil. We did this Danfo crash in Nigeria. Yeah, there is a lot of things going on, and let's see. It's a big battle, and we are in. And if you know me a little bit better, I will not stop until we are in a good shape on the top level. Maybe not the best, but with at least mentioned when companies speaking about crash games, as they do in virtual sports. This is always nice for me to hear. On a previous exhibition, I met one CEO of one of the biggest companies in the world, and they said, Martin, at least I can tell you when we speak in the board of virtual sports, you're one of the three mentioned. And this is what we also want to reach in crash games. But we're not there now. Honestly speaking, we still have to work, but we do.
That's good. I think that you both touched a really interesting subtopic. I mean, the future, or your perception or your ideas about the futures of crash game. Maybe let's. I will ask you both, but let's start maybe from Justin this time. What do you think would be like something in the future of this vertical gaming, from technology or regulation, new trends, new ideas?
The good thing for me as an operator is that I don't have to figure these things out. We just go to the shows and hopefully beat everyone else to the integration. We can always give suggestions, and it's really good to have nice relationships with your software providers or your game providers. You can give feedback. I think that they tend to value that quite a lot. One thing that we've tried now is Crash for Retail, which is quite difficult. We've actually tried a bit with Golden Race, and what was interesting is that they've brought in some different betting options, like betting on range, so that it will explode between 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 with fixed odds before, which is interesting. And then, you know, in retail, which obviously most people think is a dying sector, but it still has some life in it. It's to do a crash game, the person has to select the multiplier before the round starts. So you have to go in and say, I'm going for ×7, and then if it goes above or below, then that's sort of how it works. But it does give that nice sort of feeling where everyone plays together. In terms of online and how that's going to grow and change, I hadn't even considered having 7 planes all at once. Or I'm sure it's going to be very exciting, and we're going to watch and see, and then hopefully jump on the one that seems the most exciting.
So Martin, feel free to proceed, because I'm curious.
You know, for us, it's always important to get feedback from people like Justin, because we trusted people who know the business. And this is always, I try also to explain to my sales guys, talk close to your clients, because our developers, they can do whatever they want, but they're not in the betting shop. They don't know the field, they don't know the player, and all these things. What we see, what we believe as a trend, you know, let's take Aviator. Is a very, very successful game in crash games. No discussion about it. But where I see my possibility to compete in a good way in the future, if I do my homework, is to go more on focused and branded games, you know. So I can go to clients like Justin and say, listen, tell me something which could be a nice crash for your market in Zambia. And we create for him a specific crash game with a theme which is well known in this market. We have 2 huge projects. You're gonna see them soon. And when both projects go live, I can assure you from the day when they go live, we will be the biggest operator in crash games, because both are related to retail. They cover more than 45,000 shops. And I know that retail is still bigger than online. So when we go live and we did our homework, I would say from this time, we for sure one of the 3 big in crash games. Where I see the future is multi-channel ready. And as Justin said, but he's one of our guys, and I'm happy for this. He's always trying what we get in the market from the beginning. And the idea for us, it's clear. We want to find a solution to get a crash game ready for retail. And getting ready for retail, I've been in Africa, I've been in the market, and I see different solutions. I see solutions where they have one monitor and they have 4 or 5 mouse pads and people play on the same computer. I see setups like Justin was saying, there are 5, 10, 20 computers in the shop. They play the same Crash game. My problem, what I see here is that it's not everyone has the resources and space to build up so many places to play. And still you're limited, because if you have 20 computers in your shop, the maximum player amount is 20 players, okay? So the idea what we had, and this is, we had some test runs, we got some information from the market, we working again on this thing, is a different approach. And I think based on the situation, and we had also some successful launches now, I would say that Golden Race had up to now the only real Crash game for retail. Why? First of all, we cover what Justin was saying. We want to cover players which are used to play over the counter, which are used to play virtual sports. They have some markets on the TV screens. And the markets are, for example, you tell me in which range the crash gonna happen. There are a few markets which you see, for example, in our Fire Crash. This is one solution. The second solution is that in the same shop, we provide you the solution which is called in-shop mobile. It's still a learning curve in Africa and LATAM, but we believe it's the future. It means that you scan a QR code and you are connected from this moment with your private mobile on the same Crash game what you see on the TV screen. That means if you don't want to play these predicted markets over the counter, you use your mobile, okay, or a desktop, like for example, Justin have. We can also connect these 20 computers. But I have 50 players, they have a mobile. They scan the QR code and they play the Crash game like they played before online on their mobile with putting cash as credit on the cashier, and they're playing it. So saying that, it's a combination what we did now between a classic over the counter retail business, but also with the mobile. And we see it's growing. Some African markets, it still takes some time that the clients and the players accept to play on their mobile. But there is a big thinking behind from our side. For example, our biggest operators, what we have, and we speak about traffic from 13, 15 million bets per day in virtual sports. They're paying a huge amount, thanks God, to us every month. But they're complaining to me that they spend more money for paper than they pay to us. And the in-shop mobile, where we try to explain to players to use for the Crash game, can be used for any game. So it means in theory, I can give $20 or whatever currency to the cashier. I get my QR code and I play my football, my races, my Crash game, everything on the mobile. And it goes even further. Let's say I don't have a TV to show the Crash game. I see it on my mobile and it's still connected to the shop. And this is always an issue what we have and still have in Africa. Don't take me wrong. I bring Penal to Win. I bring Crash game. People say it's nice, but we don't have space. We don't have additional TVs. So the target is, for example, maybe in the future, we have shops, they have only one virtual football screen, but they have access to another 6 virtual games, which they use their mobile. Don't print any ticket. We don't spend paper. We don't kill trees. We save money for the operators. And this is our biggest target. So honestly speaking, Golden Race biggest focus at the moment is in the next months to launch everywhere where we can a really, really proper Crash game for retail. And I think our biggest competitors in Crash game didn't do their homework and they will get their bill for that. This is where we see, because I agree with you, Justin, 100%. Don't take me wrong. Our online is growing big, but my business is by far in retail. And I would not stop it because we speak about millions of GGR per month in retail. Even if the online is growing, retail is here to stay. Not everybody wants to play on his computer next to his wife, watching him to spend. They want to spend time in a shop, have some coffee, one drink, and play there. And I think this is very important. So yes, I think the future is something in retail. There is a lot of solutions what help us. For example, smart TV screens, which is a future project. So that you have only a TV, you don't need a computer anymore. Anything works on the TV. So you need only the player who has a mobile, a tablet, whatever. We can use any product, tablet, desktop, normal computer, mobile, anything you have in your mind, and play. This is what we believe. This is a future solution, and this is a big fight now. And I think we are ahead of our competition. We're very close to be perfect on this. It's still an ongoing process, but yeah, this is for me future for crash games. The rest is only predictive. I would know I would be a millionaire or billionaire if it's the 7 planes then, or it's come from up to down. As Justin was saying, I have no clue, but I know we have a big retail business. Golden Race at the moment maybe has close to 60,000 shops in Africa. And in LATAM, I don't know, thousands of shops, and we want to find a solution to use it in a proper way.
Thank you for that. Very, very interesting for me. And I think that we really dive deep, even in your perception of what could be, your anticipation of what could be the futures of this vertical, that I think will stay. For me now, it's maybe the time for some question and answer. So let's see if there is something. Okay. What do you think about running a business based on crash game only?
Well, who is first? Me? Nothing.
The first one probably is for Justin, because what do you think of crash game only business?
Well, there's a few that have launched. Well, there's a few that are trying now. No, it can make sense. Again, it's very sort of stable. It's very safe because you know you're going to get your RTPs. It's very unlikely you're going to have huge issues. Like, for example, last year with sports, there was a few bad months for, I think, everybody where results went the wrong way. So in general, it's quite a safe way of doing things. I think that you might struggle a little bit to differentiate yourself in the market, to keep players there, because what we find is we don't have a lot of players who only play Crash. We have the vast majority play multiple things, not only just the Crash games. So there's definitely some negatives to that. And then the biggest issue with it is essentially the best profit margin you're going to make is 3%. It's impossible for you to do better than that. So at the end of the day, you're chasing for turnover, and you're going to spend money on marketing to try and get that turnover. And if you think your 3% of the turnover is going to work out for you, especially in Africa, once you've deducted your mobile money fees and those things, then it could work. But I think it's not easy for smaller operators. Maybe if you're really big and you want to launch it as one channel and you have funds to sustain it until you get to the really big turnovers, then maybe it could work.
Thank you. Okay, next one. Again, you can pick it, Martin or Justin, if you want, or maybe both options are quite interesting in this.
What do experts think about tools to attract players to try a new crash game? Sure, the tools are always here to attract players. You know, we had also this solution with some partners. We still think to offer it again to a broader partnership. Free bets is always something nice. For example, we had back then one of our biggest operators, he had to close down, was in Kenya many years ago. Kenya closed a lot of big operators, and we had this free bet solution. So it means they had this big amount of clients on the database, and they were sending randomly free bets. So there was a message coming, you are qualified for a free bet on Golden Race. He clicked on it and he came to our game. Sure, it's something. What we are doing if you see on Virtual Sports now, and we do the same for the Crash game, because there is always one big issue from our side. Attract players, we can do whatever we want, But if Justin and the others are not using it properly, like advertising, banner advertising, these things, we end up with nothing. So what we do is that we do in-banner solutions on our mobile application. So for example, without discussing with our clients, if we activate the crash game and we say this is the most important game for us, the client go on our mobile lobby, and he gets a pop-up in the beginning on the top, which say play our crash game. So this is something where we attract to play. This is because we can control it. But I think there is always an issue with operators everywhere. They don't spend enough time to properly advertise new things, you know. And there's without advertise to the players, it's sometimes difficult to get with good feedback.
Another thing, Martin, to be wary of for the operators is we had a situation a couple of years ago where we suddenly got a really big bump in our turnover for our crash games, and we were a bit confused why. And then we went and we did some outbound calls and asked why. And one of the smaller operators had done an incredibly generous, Aviator Rain offer, where they were giving away lots and lots of free bets. And what the customers were doing was they were logging into that operator, claiming the free bets, withdrawing, and then depositing into BowlerBet to play with us because they liked our system more, even though it was the same game. So I think with acquisition, actually isn't that hard. It's quite easy to acquire customers as an operator, but the hard thing is to keep them. And that's where we rely, I think, more on the creators of the games, like your Golden Race, for example, to make the game engaging and to give sort of rewards based on the time spent on the game. I think that's the best for us.
Yes, just to follow up, Justin, he's right. You know, if in free bets, or if you get free bets on a 97% RTP, it can be a very risky part. You know, and you have also to be aware. You have also your other business, like sports betting and other business, which is not on the 97% RTP. So you should have your balance on your network. If you maybe push too hard in this area, you maybe cannibalize other areas, you know. So always to be careful how much that you advertise it as extra money, you know, with bonuses and free bets. You have always to understand if a crash game is done properly, it's a fully random game. It's not if someone is coming to you with a crash game, you say I have a risk management, you can tell me the payout, forget about it. Players in Africa understand 1% different RTP. If I change my RTP on football on the odds for 1%, within 3 days I have complaints. Players are not stupid. So you need a fully random with a high payout crash game. Everything is coming 95, 96, forget, you have no chance. Players will understand. And then it's very risky because it goes on top. Everything you offer goes on top.
And just to add to this question, because it says attract players to try a new crash game. So in this example, I'm imagining that they're already playing a crash game, for example, on our platform, and you want to move them to try a different one. Not really entirely sure what the benefits are of that from the operator perspective. I can see from your Golden Race perspective why you would want the operator to move customers from maybe one provider to a different provider. But for crash games, they're almost universally now running at 97%. So for us, we would favor any game that seems to keep the players engaged for a long period of time.
And to add, sorry, you don't have to attract, you have to know if you're a software provider like me, you don't have to attract the players. You have to attract the operators. Because in the end of the day, don't take me wrong, they decide and they have the power. If Justin tomorrow decide for any reason he wants to get someone on top of Aviator and he's pushing it in the right way, best played game, highest payout, permanent advertising, he get maybe not on the level, but the only guy you have to attract is not the players, the operator. And then you have to find solution to be in the first position, give for a few months for free, and so on and so on. So forget about attract the player. The secret is the operator in the operator's hand to get at least the first experience. And then it's on you, if you are a crash game soft provider who asked the question, if your game succeeds, and if it's working properly without issues.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. I think we can move to the next one. Okay, what tools can be used to build community in Crash games? This is linked to what you were discussing before. So as to also create interaction among players and faster socialization, both in retail and like in the online community.
Yeah, so I'll jump in there because Martin suggested already that leaderboards are really good and the chat tool is good. I don't want to say too much because I think it's something we try to do quite well, and I don't want everyone else to get ideas. But the chat is very important. I've seen a lot of operators don't realize that for some of the chat softwares you can moderate it, you can ban certain words, you can create a positive environment because sometimes you have people who are just on there saying a lot of negative stuff, or maybe even negative things about your company or rude things. So if you actually put a bit of effort into moderating the chat and to pushing it in a good direction, it does a much better job of creating a positive environment for the game where people are congratulating each other for wins and sharing strategies rather than talking about maybe things that are better kept off of the chats.
Understood.
There's nothing to add from my side. So this is more related to operators like Justin. And I know that Bolabet is a huge company in their market, so he knows very well what to do.
Absolutely. Let's go with the next one. Are there traditional games in Africa that can be likened to Crash game and developed for specific regions of the world, like a conversion or something?
I'm not sure if I understand the question correct, but if it goes in the direction for branded games for specific markets, yes, this is actually what we're working on. We, for example, the Danfo Crash, which is a specific game, I would say for the moment for the market in Nigeria, and we're working on some other solutions for specific markets. Something where people have good experience, or it has a big impact in their normal social lives. We try to adapt them in a way of Crash games. If it's gonna be successful, we don't know, but we think it's something unique. If you know me in virtual sports, and then you see the Golden Race in Bolabet, and you see it with Bet9ja or Sportybet, it might be the same company, us, but a different approach. We give the freedom, the flexibility for our clients. And this is the same what I do want to do with Crash games. I don't want to have one game which is working all over the world, collecting money for 10 years and then find out the market is finished. We want to find something specific. We want to make close. I want to go to Justin and say, listen, you have some good idea. Let me do a Crash game just for you, for your market. And, I think it's for all the regions in the world. We work also in LATAM in some specific Crash games, even in some proper European market. I cannot tell too much at the moment. We're working on specific Crash games where we think it's a success because people are very proud behind the scene what we want to do. Yeah, I think there will be a lot of things developed in the future. Maybe let's see, maybe the other follow us because I didn't see anyone else doing this up to now.
Thank you.
But you never know where to go. For example, you could do RAM fights. It's also very popular. Is it a Crash? Is it something good? It depends on the market. So it's still, we're waiting for this golden eye like we had with our football to bring it on the market and to pop in different areas.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Martin. If there are no more questions, I think that we are coming to the end of this webinar. I really hope that you find this conversation, this webinar interesting. It was a really good one, quite helpful, insightful for me. So thank you again for everyone who is listening. I am absolutely thank you, Justin and Martin. I would like to thank you, the speaker. I had like a quick announcement that I anticipated to all the operators who are watching this webinar today. Will receive like an email tomorrow containing a surprise from iSolution. I won't spoil anything, like just enjoy the surprise. Again, don't forget to follow iSolution on LinkedIn and on YouTube for the next session. And again, bye everybody. See you next time for the next webinar.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marco. I hope I get the email as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.